Okay, sticking with section 4.3 and practicing quotient rule along with some product rule. We're on 4.3 day 2. So jumping right into examples. Our first one, f of x equals sine to the 4th x over x to the 6th. And we're going to be doing this 2 ways and showing that they are the same. So we want quotient rule and product rule. So it's all set up for quotient rule. We've got our x term divided by x term, so we'll jump right into quotient rule. So starting using notation, f prime of x equals. Okay, first thing, I always like to move this out so I can see the outside and the inside more clearly. So I know my first derivative, there is an outside, so it's a power rule. So the 4 comes down. Keep the inside the same. Subtract 1. Now times the inside derivative. You've got trig function and angle. So trig function is next. That's cosine of the angle. And then derivative of the angle is a 1. So all of that is just u prime. Now we still have to multiply by v. Then we're going to subtract, keep the u the same, times by the v prime, which is simple 6x to the 5th. All over bottom squared. X to the 6th squared, which I'm just going to simplify to x to the 12th. Okay, remember when we said we had trig functions, we would not have to basket factor, but we do have to simplify numerator and denominator, reduce the fraction if there's anything common. Well, there's only x's in the bottom, and if I'm going to cancel, I have to have the x's in both baskets in the top. So looking in this first big basket, there's 6 x's. Second basket has 5, bottom has 12. I would be able to basket factor out 5 of them and then cancel. But we can skip that basket factoring step and just cancel. So I'm going to cancel all 5 of these. There will be 1 of these left, so x to the 1st, and you got to cancel 5 of these, leaving you with 7. So we've got 4 finds the 1, 4 sine cubed x, cosine x, minus the 6 floats to the front, sine x to the 4th, over x to the 7th. And again, we could basket factor the top, but the author does not do it. All right, second one, we're going to do product rule, which means you're going to have to rewrite it so you actually see a product of 2 functions. So all that does is it means we have to bring our denominator up to the top properly and then do product rule. So our original function, instead of being the quotient, is going to be sine x to the 4th, bringing up and making unhappy, that'll be x to the negative 6th. So we've got our u and our v. And jumping into product rule, so starting derivatives, so use the notation. U prime, same thing we did up there, outside times inside. So we'll have 4 sine x cubed. Inside derivative is cosine x times the angle derivative is 1. So that's u prime multiplying by v. Then adding, keep the u the same. And then v prime will be negative 6 x to the negative 7th. Negative 6 minus 1 gives you negative 7. Okay, so now the goal is to make this answer look like this answer. So we have no option here because we need these x's to get to the bottom. We have to basket factor those x's out to make this happen. And that's all we're going to basket factor, though, because that's the only thing that has to move. So here you've got x to the negative 6th, and here x to the negative 7th. When you factor out, you need the smallest amount, and negative 7 is smaller than negative 6, so that's what we are taking out. And take a look. That's all we want to really move to the bottom is that, so I know I've got that right. But you do take the smaller number. So in here, simplifying, we got the 4. This x term, whatever's left here, is going to float to the front. So how many x's am I going to have left if I take out x to the negative 7th? So the way you figure that out is you are going to be subtracting, or just, well, actually, I think if you think logically, it's easier. Negative 7 multiplied into what power? And remember, you add exponents. So what exponent is here, so that when I add them together, I get negative 6. Well, that's a positive 1. So it's just x to the first. Again, the 1's not necessary, but take a look. When you multiply in, negative 7 plus 1 gives you the negative 6. So that's an x to the first. Then we've got our sine cubed x. I'm just using the other notation just to show it, keep showing it. Cosine x. And here our negative 6 will float to the front. And those are all out in front, so we're only going to have the negative 6 and the sine to the 4th. So then last step is to kick that to the bottom, and we should match perfectly with what we have up there. So we'll have 4x sine cubed x cosine x minus 6 sine to the 4th. And bringing them down, making it happy. And the two answers match perfectly. Okay, number 2. Same thing, 2 ways. A of x equals 20 over sine squared x. Again, quotient rule, product rule, show that they're the same. So let's leave it as is, do quotient rule. Even though you don't see the 2 x terms, because the 1 x term is in the denominator, quotient rule applies. So we go a prime of x equals, derivative of u is 0. And I don't even have to write that because I know it's going to 0 out, but keep following the pattern. Minus, keep the u. Derivative of the bottom, now remember this is an outside-inside because this can be written like that. So I have an outside power, so it's power rule first, so the 2 comes down. Sine x to the 1 less brings me to sine to the first, and then times inside derivative. And try not to lose track here, but we've got the u times v prime, so we're done there, all over the bottom squared. So it is sine of x squared to start with, but we've got to square that again. So that's going to give us sine to the 4th down there. All right, so again, I'm going to, we don't have to basket factor, but we do have to reduce the fraction. So the only thing in the denominator are signs, so we're going to look. I've got a sine squared, a sine to the 1st, and a sine to the 4th. I can cancel 1 sine from all 3 baskets. So completely gone, down to 1 of those, and down to 3 here. So 1 gone, 1 gone, 1 gone. Oh yeah, didn't even need to do that. That one's 0. So that's 0, and we're going to have a negative 40 cosine x over sine cubed. Okay. And second way, product rule. Well, so actually it's not even going to be a product rule. It's just going to be, when we bring that up, we don't have 2x's multiplied. So we're just going to go rewrite. Not that you have to know that. I could just see it coming. So a of x. So bringing the sine squared up, we're going to keep the 20. And then it would be sine of x to the negative 2. Now, when there's only one x here, this is not product rule. You don't have an x times an x. So this is just an outside-inside derivative. Remember, multipliers just carry along. So we're not starting the derivative there. That's just a multiplier carried along. We're going to start with this over here, and it has an outside and an inside. So power rule it is. So negative 40 times sine x to the... subtracting 1, that'll give us negative 3, times the inside derivative is cosine x. And then the only thing we have to do to make it look like this one is get this exponent happy by kicking it to the bottom. So the negative 40 is staying put. The cosine is staying put. This is coming down. Making it happy down there. And now they match. Okay, and then this last one just gets tricky in the, we're not doing it two ways, but it gets tricky in the, that there's a product rule inside of a quotient rule, which just is fun. Here we go. Number 3. Let's go f of x equals 1 over cosine x times sine x. So knowing what rule to follow, first off, the x's are in the denominator, which automatically means you have to do a quotient rule. And then I can see a product in the denominator. So there's a product rule inside of the quotient rule. So quotient rule it is. So we've got our u over our v. So starting derivative of u is 0 times by the denominator, subtract, keep the top, multiply by the derivative of the bottom. And here it is. Your bottom is a product. So inside of this v, we've got a product where I have u times v. And if this wasn't a 1, these parentheses would be crucial. You could get away by missing them, but get in the habit here. The product rule has 2 parts to it. So you have to have brackets so that whatever number is out here, you distribute. But since it's a 1, you could have missed it and been okay, I think. Oh, no, you couldn't. It's a negative 1. Oh, okay, I'm good. So don't forget the brackets. Starting, product rule. U prime, so the derivative of cosine is a negative sign. Angle's 1. Timesing by the v, that's another sign. That's the v. Plus, keep your u. Derivative of the v is a cosine x. So that zeroes out, that's gone. Don't have to write that out. In here, we've got a negative sign times sine, so let's say negative sine squared. Plus, we've got cosine times cosine is a cosine squared. And what we have is a negative 1 that has to get distributed. So our final answer is going to be a positive sine squared minus cosine squared. Okay, so subtracting and then having two terms coming, you have to have brackets. I guess that was the crucial point there. All right.